Good morning. It's Sunday the 21st of June 2026 and welcome to Derbyshire. More specifically, welcome to Matlock. How are we doing? Well, Matlock, Derbyshire's county town. And Matlock also lies in the southeast corner of the Peak District. And it's a wonderful place. And more importantly, it's been my home for over 23 years. So you can just see Ryber Castle dominating the skyline over there. Fantastic. So I'm just crossing Matlock Bridge, which crosses the River Derwent. I'm going right into the town centre now. So I'm just entering Leys Park now, so I'll just have a look at this information board. I'll read what it says about Crown Square. Crown Square is at the heart of Matlock, and it was from here, up Bank Road, that cable trams used to travel to one of the 30 hydros on Matlock Bank. The clock tower and shelter you can see to your right in Leys Park was originally located at the tram terminus in the centre of Crown Square. So there's the Crown, right in the middle of Crown Square. Fantastic. So that's looking down Causeway Lane. So if you travel along there, that road eventually takes you to Alfreton and the M1. And then that's Bank Road up there, and I should be walking up there in a bit. And that way, that's Bakewell Road. So you've got M&S Food Hall up there. There's a pub there called the Stella Lounge, or more of a restaurant really. And then we're looking back to Matlock Bridge over there. Okay, I'll have a walk into the park now then. So that's the old shelter for the tram terminus. Okay, very quiet. Well, it is just after 5:30 in the morning, so I came here deliberately this early because I thought there won't be many people around. We shall see. This is looking really lovely with all the flowers. How beautiful is that? Okay, I'll just have a walk around here. Now, let's rewind a few years. We're going to rewind right back to the mid-1990s. I think it was about 1995, in fact. That was the year, I believe, if I remember rightly, that I started looking for work in my old home county of Gloucestershire, more specifically the Forest of Dean, because I decided at that time that I really wanted to live in the Forest of Dean. However, there was just no jobs at all. But I continued looking throughout the rest of the 1990s, even when I was living in Weston-super-Mare between 1996 and 1999. I was still looking for jobs in the Forest of Dean, but no luck whatsoever. And I still carried on by the time I'd moved back to Bristol in 1999. But in 1999, the internet had become more available to the public. So it was much easier to look online for jobs. So I decided I'd widen my search. I'd look sort of, not just in the Forest of Dean, I'd look beyond it and a lot further. And I think I need to make one thing very clear here. I'd been living in Bristol for quite a long time by that time, excluding the 3 years I was in Weston-super-Mare. And there was nothing wrong with Bristol as a place. You know, the city itself, nothing wrong with it at all. It just wasn't somewhere I wanted to stay for the rest of my life. I just thought, at the time I had no commitments, I could basically live anywhere I wanted. So I decided to widen my search and look for jobs in other counties all over the UK. Mainly places in South Wales and sort of parts of England. And funnily enough, it was Derbyshire where most jobs actually came up. And in the end, by the end of I think it was the start of the noughties actually, I think it was about 2002, I'd actually started applying for jobs in Derbyshire. I think I applied for 4 jobs. There were just more jobs in Derbyshire for whatever reason. And I was quite attracted to Derbyshire because my very first proper youth hosting holiday when I was 19, I came to the Peak District, and that was way back in 1986. And I remember thinking how fantastic the Peak District was. Lovely scenery. So the thought of moving to Derbyshire, with that in mind, really appealed to me. So I thought, yeah, I'd love to live in the Peak District. So, as I say, I applied for 4 jobs. I didn't get anywhere with the first 3, although I was interviewed, so at least I got the application form right. But towards the end of 2002, the 4th job I applied for and was interviewed for, I was successful. So at the start of 2003, that was when it was all change and I made the move here to Matlock in Derbyshire. Here's the bandstand. I see some people have nicely left all their rubbish around it. And over there, you can clearly see Ryber Castle on the top there. Fantastic. Okay, well, even though it's about 10 to 6 now, traffic is starting to get busier already at this time of the morning. I'll make my way back to Crown Square and then I'll start climbing up Bank Road. It's quite strange seeing Matlock so quiet and empty. Not used to it. That's because I don't get up this early in the morning most days. Okay. Couple of motorbikes going over Matlock Bridge there. I bet they're on their way to Matlock Bath. Matlock Bath always gets busy with motorbikes on a Sunday. Anyway, I'm now starting to climb up Bank Road. I think I'll cross to the other side. So this lovely building here, that's the town hall. So the town hall is the headquarters of Derbyshire Dales District Council. Okay, I carry on up the road, keep climbing. Need to take the odd breather climbing up this hill. I'm used to it, but I still huff and puff. Okay, onwards and upwards. Now, one thing I like about climbing up Bank Road is the fact that the higher you go, the better the views get. I mean, look at that, fantastic. So that hill opposite is Masson Hill. Okay. I've now reached Smedley Street. So that's Smedley Street on this side of Bank Road, and that side of Bank Road, it's Smedley Street East. So just there, you've got the Pharmacy Real Ale Bar. That's a great real ale bar, I can tell you. If you like your good beers, that's the place to go. And this old building here, this is county offices. So it's the headquarters of Derbyshire County Council. I'm just approaching the bottom end of Wellington Street. And that building there, that's Malvern House. And I'll talk about Malvern House later on because it is actually an important location on today's walk. Okay, but for now, I shall start to walk up Wellington Street. So when I first moved to Matlock at the start of 2003, my first home was here on Wellington Street. So I'll just cut through up this alleyway here. So I've now reached Jackson Road. This old building here, when I first moved to Matlock, I think once a week, there used to be a brass band that was playing there. So I don't know if it was a teaching session that was going on, but I can always remember, I think it was a Thursday actually, every Thursday in the evenings you could hear a brass band playing there. Really nice sound. And this is the wonderful Thorn Tree Inn. Fantastic. I've not been in for a while, but I did go in quite regularly at one time. So it's about time I went in again, really. But the great thing about the Thorn Tree pub, apart from being a lovely pub, you've got the best view over Matlock from the patio there. Well, I'm back on Wellington Street now. I'm just going to pause here for a second. Matlock Green Garage behind me. Apart from the fact that that's where I take my car when it needs servicing, that is the old tram depot. So when the tram used to run from Crown Square, up Bank Road and up here along Rutland Street, that is where the tram used to end, at the old tram depot. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so my way is to continue up Wellington Street to the very end. So I've reached the end of Wellington Street, and that pub behind me is the Duke of Wellington. And that used to be my main local in Matlock. I say used to be, I haven't been in there for quite a long time now for various reasons, but certainly in the first few years of me living in Matlock, I used to go in there most nights. It was a great place, because it was one of those pubs where I felt completely comfortable walking in by myself, no problem at all. And there was always somebody that I would end up talking to. So it really was a great local pub. As I say, I've not been in there for quite a long time now. But probably more importantly for me, the Duke of Wellington pub was where I met all my friends in Matlock. So yeah, that was a very important part of Matlock for me. Okay, well I've crossed Chesterfield Road and I'm going to continue walking along Asker Lane now then. Bailey's Tump. The Tump, or a mound, is made from spoil out of the excavations for the Derwent Valley Aqueduct. This pipeline was installed across the fields to the west in the early 1900s. It still carries water from the Derwent dams, 20 miles to the north, as far as Leicester, 40 miles to the south. The landowner at the time was Ernest Bailey, so the site became Bailey's Tump. In the 1930s, Bailey's Tump was fortified as an air defence site. The circular enclosures are the remains of the ramparts which sheltered the equipment and protected the soldiers. The Tump was in use from 1939 to 1945 as part of the outer defences of Sheffield and its steel industry. In winter 1940, an attacking Dornier bomber was brought down. It crashed near Great Longston, 10 miles to the west. In 1944 and 1945, the searchlight was pointed upwards to act as a navigation aid for Allied bombers attacking Germany. In 2006, Bailey's Tump was restored by Matlock Civic Association and Matlock Town Council using a grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund. It's a really interesting site, and it's clearly still looked after well. Yeah, I can tell that somebody's cut the grass quite recently. Yeah, Bailey's Tump. Yeah, really interesting. Look at that. Yeah. Brilliant. It's really great that they keep these old relics. Fantastic. Okay, well, I better get on with my walk anyway. So the sun is getting higher now, so I reckon it's probably about 7 o'clock now. People will start waking up, so I'll move on. Okay, I'm going to go that way because I know what's over there. Okay, now I wonder what we have just around here then. So that's the wishing stone. Let's read what it says on this information board. Make a wish. This huge gritstone boulder didn't always have such a mysterious name. It was known as the Blockstone and stood in its own field in Hurst Farm. Calling it the wishing stone helped it become a tourist attraction for Matlock's many spa visitors. People believe that if you walk around it 3 times in a clockwise direction, or some say 9, with your eyes closed, your wishes will come true. Well, I don't think I'll try walking around it 3 times. You've got to be careful what you wish for. Okay, well, I shall move on now, and my walk takes me down Wishing Stone steps. Right, so I have now reached the bottom of Wishing Stone steps. I'm now emerging onto the lane in Lumsdale. Now, after I left my cottage in Wellington Street, I lived there for about 4.5 years. I moved to a place here in Lumsdale, and we'll look at it later on. But when I had moved to Lumsdale, I used to go up and down Wishing Stone steps to get to the Duke of Wellington pub. Now, after a night in the pub, and after several beers, walking back down Wishing Stone steps in the dark was quite challenging. But I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Thankfully, I never ever tripped. I'm surprised I never did, actually, but there you go. Anyway, my way is down there. I'm going to follow the lane further down Lumsdale. But I'm just going to take A little detour up here first, because there's something up here which is very much worth seeing. So these are Lumsdale Falls. Absolutely wonderful. Well, as I often say in places where there's beautiful waterfalls like this, I could stay here all day, but I better go on with a walk. And this is one of the ponds at the top of Lumsdale Falls. There's some gorgeous cottages beyond it too. Middle and lower ponds, the source of the power. You are standing between two ponds. The one in front of you is the lower pond. This was built in the 1850s as a holding pond to ensure a continuous supply of water power to drive machinery and keep the workers busy in mills further down the valley. It is on the site of an old quarry and was constructed with an impressive stepped dam. It was up to 4 metres deep and had a stone plug and drain in its base. In the bottom of the small wood, across the lane from the lower pond, is a tall stone chimney. This provided the draw for flues, which extended underground from Garton's mill in the bottom of the valley. And there's the chimney. Okay, well, I'm going to retrace my steps down the lane, past Wishingstone Steps, and I'm going to walk further down Lumsdale. I'm walking beside the Bentley Brook as I continue down the Lumsdale Valley. Now, as I said earlier, when I first moved to Matlock at the start of 2003, I lived in that cottage at the bottom of Wellington Street. And I was there for 4.5 years. But it was an old cottage, it had a few problems, and I decided that I didn't want to stay in that cottage forever, so I looked to move. I wanted something a bit more modern, and I knew you could rent flats that were more modern. And the place I moved to was down here. We'll see it in a minute. It was a wonderful modernised flat in an old mill building, and it was the best place I lived in. I moved there, I think it was about July 2007. So yeah, I'd been in Wellington Street for 4.5 years, and I moved down into a lovely apartment just down the bottom of Lumsdale here. So we'll get to it in a minute. And this is Bentley Brook Tap Room. Yeah. It used to be further up the lane. I did go there a couple of times, but I've not actually been since it's moved to here. So I must get round to going in there, because I bet that is a great place. Yeah. A great location too. This is Bailey's Mill. It's a wonderful place, and it's been converted into luxury apartments. And this is where I lived. I lived in one of the apartments here when I left Wellington Street. So I moved to Bailey's Mill, I think it was July 2007. I was only here for 18 months. I think I left here at December 2008. But yeah, it was a lovely apartment here. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and the bedrooms actually overlook the weir. I mean, the water's quite low at the moment, so you can't really sort of see it at its best. But It overlooked the weir and it was just fantastic. And throughout the flat, wherever you were sitting or standing, you could hear the sound of the water running all the time. And it wasn't disturbing, it was actually very relaxing, a really nice sound. Yeah, so the only reason I moved out of here at the end of 2008 is because I met someone. Yeah, I moved in with this woman I met, so we'll walk to where I lived with her when I first met her. Okay, a junction. Now, that path up there, I often used to go that way to the pub. So sometimes I used to walk up there, that takes you to Hurst Farm, and then I used to walk through Hurst Farm and on up the hill to the Duke of Wellington. So I'd sometimes walk up that way and back down Wishing Stone Steps. But I'm not going that way today. My walk takes me down this way. I'm going to be heading back towards Leys Park now. Off we go. Okay, reached the main road again now. So this is the A615, which runs between Alfreton and the centre of Matlock. Now, just here, that's Matlock Green Scout and Guide Group headquarters. Also used as a polling station when it's polling days. So this part of Matlock is called Matlock Green. And over there, you've got Matlock Green Fish Bar. And that is without doubt the best chippy in Matlock. You've also got Darleydale Fish Bar in Darleydale, a couple miles up the road. That's also another excellent chippy. I think they're actually both run by the same family. Over there, you've got the Red Lion Pub, another great pub in Matlock. So this is Knowlson Place, and I'm just approaching Leys Park again. And this is Leys Park Boating Lake. Lovely. Lots of ducks here too. You can hire a paddle boat as well. Closed at the moment because obviously it's still very early in the morning, but I'm sure it'll be open later and I expect it'll be really busy. Yeah, lovely spot for people to come when they come to Matlock. So this footbridge crosses over the River Derwent again. Yeah, fantastic. So I'm just going up here towards the A6 Dale Road because when I met my partner in 2008, this is where I lived with her. So there's Dale Road, but my partner and I lived in a flat down here, sort of down the back of it. That lane runs parallel to Dale Road. So we lived in a flat. It was actually one of the buildings that faces onto Dale Road, but we lived in a flat that was at the back. It was actually an old cinema. Yeah, it was an old cinema because I remember the front room was absolutely massive and you could actually see some of the designs of the remains of the old cinema. But we were only there for a couple of months, I think. So I moved in with her, as I say, at the end of December 2008. And I think we moved out of there probably January or February 2009. We weren't there for very long because I moved somewhere else and my partner came with me. So we'll see that in a bit. Okay, we'll go back over the footbridge now and back through Leys Park. walking on the other side of the boating lake now, and I'm just going to cross back over the A615 and take a little lane opposite. I'm slowly starting to climb up again now. Today's walk is a bit of a higgledy-piggledy route, to be fair, but the reason being is because I just want to show you where I've lived in Matlock, sort of in chronological order really. Well, that's not quite possible, but I'll do the best I can with that. So anyway, I'm heading to a little bit more greenery now. So this is Deanfields. This is a lovely green space in quite close to the centre of Matlock. So we've got some lovely views from here, although unfortunately the vegetation this time of year is obscuring a lot of the views. But down there you're looking into Matlock Dale. On the top there is the Heights of Abraham above Matlock Bath. And just down there you've got Matlock Town football field. Yeah, and just to the left of that is the cricket ground. So yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Some lovely views from here. Okay, I should carry on this way then. Okay, another junction then. So that way will take me back into the town centre, but I'm going ahead here, just carrying on, slowly climbing gradually. So along this section of the path, you need to take care, especially if you're not familiar with this path, because just about to emerge, all of a sudden, onto the road, just like that. Yeah, you literally walk out of that wall onto the road. So yeah, luckily it's still quite early in the morning, so there's not a lot of traffic around. This is Steep Turnpike. Okay, so just cross over and take the path on the other side here. And I'm now just starting to make the final climb on today's walk, thankfully. That's one thing about living in Matlock. It keeps you fit. So that path emerged onto Henry Avenue, which itself has emerged onto Smedley Street East. So I'm just slightly east of county offices where I was earlier. Now earlier I also mentioned when I was walking along Smedley Street past county offices, I pointed out a house called Malvern House. Now that is actually a set of apartments again. And when my partner and I were living in that flat at the back of Dale Road, when we left there after a couple of months, we moved into one of the flats in Malvern House. So we were there for about, that would have probably been about 4 years. Well, I think I was there about 3.5 years overall, because I think I lived with my partner overall for nearly 4 years. So, but yeah, so I won't bother walking along there now, but Malvern House was where we lived from 2009 to 2012. So this is Sparrow Park, another lovely little park in Matlock. Yeah. So, as I said, my partner and I moved to one of the flats in Malvern House at the start of 2009. but by 2012 we were going our separate ways. So I think it was March 2012 my partner moved out. I was still in the flat myself, and I think I moved out of there in July 2012. Now, there was nothing wrong with the flat itself. It was a nice flat, but it was a 3-bedroom apartment. It was too big for even the two of us. So once my partner had left, it was just like rattling around in a huge house on my own. So, but also because my partner and I split, and it was very amicable, I just wanted a fresh start. So I decided to move again. So when I moved again, I moved to a place along here on Smedley Street East. It's Cavendish Mill, and that's another mill that was converted into luxury apartments. So when I left Malvern House after my partner and I separated, I moved into one of the flats in Cavendish Mill. It was a 1-bed flat. The first time I rented a 1-bed flat in Matlock, but that was all I needed, and it was lovely. Really nice flat. I think what really sold that flat for me was the views it offered. So I could sit in my lounge and I could look right over Matlock. I was on the top floor, so I could see right across Matlock, right over to Masson Hill, down into Matlock Dale, and I could even see Ryber Castle. Fantastic. So yeah, so I was there, I think I was there for 6 years. So my flat in Cavendish Mill was the home that I lived in the longest during my time here in Matlock, so far. But yeah, it was a lovely flat. The landlord, as with all the places that I lived in Matlock, they were all private rentals. The landlord lived outside of Matlock, but it was in 2018, I had a text from him saying, "I'd like to value your flat." And I thought, uh-oh, that means he wants to sell. And that's the problem with private rentals. You've got no control over where you live, because if the landlord decides to sell the flat that you're living in, you can't do anything about it. So I had to move out of that flat in 2018. Didn't want to. In other ways, I was quite glad, because I wasn't particularly keen on the landlord anyway. He wasn't the best landlord I had. So in some ways, I was quite relieved to have moved out. But I'd already been on the housing list through the local council. So I registered with Derbyshire Dales District Council to be on the housing register, because being on the housing list would be a lot easier, and you pay less rent than you do through private rentals. And also, if you do get a flat through the district council, it also means that technically that is your forever home. It's not like a private landlord who can actually sort of decide to sell and turn you out. So anyway, I still didn't manage to get anywhere through the council by the time I left Cavendish Mill. So luckily, around that time, there was another flat that came up back at Malvern House. So I actually knocked on my landlord's door, and he only lived around the corner from Malvern House. And I said, "Hi, I see you've got a flat for rent." And of course he knew me, so we didn't have to go through all the references and stuff. So I was able to move in practically straight away. So that was a real blessing. But I knew it was always going to be temporary. I knew that moving back into Malvern House was always going to be temporary, because I'd been on the housing register through the district council, and I knew that I wanted to get somewhere that was going to be more of a permanent rental place. So, but again, I ended up being back at Malvern House for 4 years, even though it was temporary. So in 2022, I finally got offered a place through Derbyshire Dales District Council, although it was through the housing association that was listed through them. And I moved to where I'm living now. So I'm now living in my home for 4 years. I'm very happy there. It's a place that is very much my forever home. So it's very unlikely that, you know, unlike a private landlord, that they can turn around and say, "Out you go." And it's more like my own place, because I've got my own carpets, I've got my own white goods. So although I am still renting, it's a lot cheaper than private rent as well. But yeah, the thing about it is, I know that I can relax now knowing that that is technically my forever home. So that's wonderful. And for pretty obvious reasons, I guess, I haven't revealed where I'm living now, but I am very happy there. And as I say, I should be there for the rest of my life, technically. Okay, well, that's the end of my walk. So just wanted to really just do a quick walk around Matlock, just really to sort of show where I've lived since I've been living in Matlock. So I'm going to make my way home now, but I have made other films in Matlock, made them some years ago. So if you watch this video to the very end, a link to those videos will appear on the screen. Okay, that's it then. I shall now make my way home and enjoy the rest of my Sunday.